confident that we'll be world champions. And that's what I've said right from the start, and I'm still confident.
You want to change the conversation, win some games.
The Duke is on fire! What's going on? Happy Monday to you. Jump on in here, ladies and gentlemen, and sweat out one of the truly most wonderful times of the year. DiVincenzo ends up with the ball. He'll throw it down low. Julius Randle playing bully ball on the overmatched and oversized Devin Vassell and his 25-14 Wolves, 3:49 and counting to go in the first quarter. Minnesota on a 14-6 run. We established this last week, 9 to noon. It can be all about the R's of the world, like DK Metcalf relocating and getting traded to Pittsburgh. Tomlin got a beast of a man. At this moment, Jaden McDaniels with a three from the left side. It clanks out. He steals it from Devin Vassell. Here's a pass to Edwards. Slam dunk! Anthony Edwards flushes one home with a minute to go in the first half. Back at the ranch, the speedy Aaron Jones keeps the purple and gold sombrero with the 2-year re-signing. With 138 points, we had some explosiveness with the Wolves tonight. Likewise, for Josh Minot, who just swatted Blake Wesley. Minot goes to Dillingham, and they threw the ball away with 1:27 to go. But you know what? In honor of somebody very inspiring to me when I was going to high school and junior college in Southern California, the late, great Chick Hearn, may God rest his soul, best play-by-play voice in the history of the NBA. This game is in the refrigerator. The door's shut, the lights are out, the eggs are cooling, the butter's getting hard, the Jell-O's jiggling, and the Timberwolves are going to win 5 in a row. Let's go. Geno Smith to the Raiders. Weird rumors of Aaron Rodgers coming to the Vikings. Sam Darnold to Seattle or Pittsburgh to throw to DK. And McVay gets Devontae Adams to add a wide receiver weapon to go with Go on and Puka. Puka. Puka, do you satisfy? Whatever, Puka. Puka. Puka, do you satisfied? The Minnesota Timberwolves. After Blake Wesley hurls up a brick. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a high five for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've won 5 consecutive games. They beat the San Antonio Spurs in quite convincing fashion. The final score, a season-high 141 points for the Timberwolves. They win 141-124. So what's next for our beloved Purple? Oh, yeah, that's right. There was another signing at like $1.7 million. The punter's back in the mix.
He ain't heaven.
He's who?
He's a punter.
And on to fourth down we go. What's next for the beloved Purple? This is a very big day. We're going to get to all of that in a minute because there could be reports of some hot National Football League free agency action today. Ooh. Nordo and Meat Sauce with a special presentation this evening, 6:30 to 8. And we welcome you to the 9 to noon presentation at FM 100.3, KFAN, all of that in a minute. But first, I was so excited to call that Timberwolves game last night. I hung my outfit. I hung out my outfit on a door handle Wednesday.
You were looking fresh last night.
I mean, I was so excited for that. Alas, Nordo has some more, including some chicanery.
Yeah, I do. A couple more highlights, just kind of catching the flow. You and Kevin Lynch, Bally Sports / FanDuel Sports Network, excuse me. But how about Rudy last night?
Jaden McDaniels, left-handed dribble by the foul line, now near the elbow. Wonderful pass to Conley. Excellent pass to Gobert. Slam! Dunk! Rudy Gobert says au revoir, San Antonio, and the Wolves lead by 9.
Hey, real quick, completely out of the way, but going back to that Chick Hearn reference, that shout out and homage that you paid to him, was it slam dunk that Chick, like he invented words, he invented bits for game calls?
Chick Hearn, I believe he's from Peoria, Illinois, was he was like Merrill Reese. He was Merrill Reese of the NBA. And he was the longtime play-by-play voice for the LA Lakers.
Yeah.
So I end up via one of my mom's divorces. I end up in Southern California, and I would lay in bed every single night and listen to 570 KLAC, and Chick Hearn called Los Angeles Lakers games. Now, at the time, I didn't realize what a luminary. I knew he was good, and I knew I loved him, and I knew I wanted to be like him. But I didn't realize the luminary status Chick Hearn held throughout the annals of the NBA. And I'll rattle off a couple, but there's more. It's like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Okay, he's traded from Milwaukee to Los Angeles. I believe a former Indiana Hoosier, Kent Benson, ballyhooed as he was part of that deal. So erstwhile Luau Sendor was unfurling this weird shot, which was a hook shot, but nobody had a name for it. So Chick Hearn invented the term sky hook.
Oh, sweet.
And then Magic Johnson's in the fold in like 79 or 80 out of Michigan State, and he's putting up lines of like 16 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds. So Chick Hearn invented the phrase triple-double. And all through that in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you'd have players streaking down the key and jamming it home. So he invented the phrase slam dunk. And when I was thinking about this game call, with as much NBA as I watch and as much as we watch and as much as I listened to about the last week and a half after the Timberwolves graciously gave me this opportunity, I quickly realized, because I'm not going to overthink this thing and try to come up with a revolutionary call for things that people have been describing for decades. But nobody says slam dunk.
No.
Nobody ever says slam dunk anymore.
No.
So I'm like, you know what? Old school, best school, man. I mean, if somebody is heading to the basket and they're going to jam that sucker home, slam dunk. So that also was paying homage to Chick Hearn.
No, I liked it. Slams at home, hammers at home, and then sometimes there's just a gasp and there's awe. But paying homage, I enjoyed it. Here's an Anthony Edwards highlight.
So Stephon Castle is 4 of 7 from the line. Timberwolves lead 92-83. 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Here comes Anthony Edwards surging down the key for a soft layup, extending the Wolves' lead to 11.
Now, the key to this, you can appreciate this. I've watched you do a ton of Vikings games, PA, and you know that a big part of a great broadcast, it's about starting on the right foot. It's about starting fast.
Yeah, preparation.
Preparation, absolutely. Here's the beginning of last night's terrific broadcast.
And it's great to be with you at Target Center. Indeed, Paul Allen joined by Kevin Finch. Kevin Lynch. After chatting with Chris Lynch, we now talk to Kevin Finch. It was the Chris Finch interview that threw me off. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that would be an L for the day. My ding-a-ling. My ding-a-ling. Yeah, so
it was so good last night, man.
Oh, thank you. It was... Yeah, it's a blur, man. It's just so hard to explain the joy that I experienced doing that last night at the end, right before we were signing off for a final time on the vast and ever expanding Minnesota Timberwolves radio network. I didn't plan to say this, but I just, as the kids would say, I got up in my feelings. And this is truth from the heart. And I can't ever recall saying, a dream come true. I just don't get there for whatever the reason. But Lynch said something to me, and I said, look, I'm just going to be straight with you, man. I mean, when I was growing up in Washington, D.C., in Private Hill Apartments with your favorites, Miles Spires, Lucius Tisdale, Billy Camilio, Dwayne Bonds, and Danny Norton. You got all their albums, don't
Danny
you?
had the mint for when you were siphoning gas.
Sounds like the quintet that made up the Stylistics with Lucius Tisdale on lead vocals. I never dreamed of doing radio shows or calling football games or calling horse races. I was a basketball guy through and through. I played it. I loved it. My single mom would bring me and the aforementioned friends to the Capitol Center to watch the Washington Bullets play. I mean, she would scrape up money so I could have an Elvin Hayes jersey. He was my favorite player. A sweet fall away baseline jumper was his calling card when he came out of the University of Houston. I think I had a jersey by a sharpshooter before a three-pointer time named Kevin Greavy. And I also had a jersey from a point guard who was super sneaky and crafty named Kevin Porter. Now, we wouldn't be dusting off that Kevin Porter jersey these days.
I always love that one.
Go ahead and read up on that if you want. It would be akin to like going to a football game and wearing a 4-2 sharper.
I always love that one.
But I said to Lynch, I said, this is a dream come true. I mean, I didn't dream about any of those other things. I just dreamed about being part of something in the NBA. And then we just talked about Chick Hearn, and, he's seeing all this stuff. And he's like, well, I probably good googly goo should come up with something for this, with what Kareem is doing or what Magic is doing or or these dunks and these jams. And that was kind of the situation for me in 2007. When Adrian Peterson was doing those hard jump cuts, and he was running through people, and then he was getting loose from 60, 70, 75 yards. And then I was like, man, in Chick Hearn-like fashion, I probably should come up with something for that.
And he's loose!
So that was the origin of that, and that's just kind of how the whole thing works. I got up in my feelings at the end of the game last night. I sat there for probably 45 minutes after the game, just soaking it in case it's the only one I ever get to do. And the support from Wolves staffers like Patrick Reese, Ryan Tankey, Aaron Freeman, Sarah Perez, Chris Finch was so gracious and awesome. Make that Chris Lynch, as I called the game with Kevin Finch. And so many others helped, and they were so supportive, just so supportive, and it was so inspiring.
And big thanks to Cal Soderquist as well for helping me out with those highlights.
Ain't no doubt. Kevin Lynch, Kevin O'Connell, Jim Peterson, Superstats Dave Handelin, engineer Mike Weber, the aforementioned studio host and executive producer Cal Soderquist. Marnie came up, giant hug, just super hyper with just full of inspiration. And I love all of them for the hugs and the help because it was needed. And plenty of hugs amongst Timberwolves players and coaches after smashing the Spurs. The Minnesota Timberwolves last night in a victory over the San Antonio Spurs, they scored a season-high 141. Hey! 5-0. 5 in a row. 4 Fincho. 5 in a row. 4 Fincho. Yeah, that was cool. Gobert came back. Now, 5-0 since Julius Randle returned. Stifle came back last night, and he changed the game after he got those 3 fouls in the first quarter. And they beat a team that utterly had its spirit broken by the third quarter. And this Cornfield Covenant just wasn't for Stefan Castle and Julian Champagny and Devin Vassell and the San Antonio Spurs. It just wasn't for them. Homer announcer, yours truly, predicted before the Charlotte game last week that was 5 days ago. Jaden McDaniels had 29 in that game. That's the second most points he scored in a game. I think he had a 30 in early February. That the Timberwolves would win 11 consecutive games. And Nordo's like, hey, you're definitely ready to Homerify this call, aren't you?
Oh my gosh. Can you hear?
But with the win last night, they're up to a nickel. They're up to 5. Still got 6 to go to get to that 11. But yours truly felt it last week. The only way to get to 11 is to get to 5, and they did it last night. They're at Denver Wednesday. 2-0 versus the Nuggets this season, and both wins came here. Now,
I think that's the key one as part of that streak, and that's
time.
probably pretty obvious. Go win at Denver, and then all 5 of your next ones at home. I mean, just mow through Orlando and Utah to start, and you get 2 against the Pelicans who are beaten up. Just handle business. At least that's a 10-1 if you feel out some sort of Joker performance who continues to awe the world with what he's doing. But it's a fantastic opportunity for the Howl.
NFL free agency must be percolating in such hot fashion right now. I can't get the X machine to work in the studio.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, is it me or is it the X?
Well,
for all we know, Will Fries could be here by now, and Byron Murphy Jr. is already re-signed. But we can't get the X machine to work.
Yeah, this is a problem. I got ESPN. I have NFL.com.
This is a problem.
I have PFT. Well, of course, you get into habits.
Well, it's a big day.
X is my habit, so I can doom scroll and I can update and I can find all the bits and the posts. And for those, the Schefters and the rap sheets of the world that need to be first on various bits and news, I'm looking for that. I can't get X up on my phone or here on the computer. I'm feeling helpless right now.
Yeah, well, I understand. I mean, it's a very, very big newsworthy day, whether doom scrolling or just trying to find out if Will Fries is here yet. All right, 3-2.
Man, Thomason would have been at the airport.
Thomason would have been at wherever Elon Musk moved Twitter headquarters, banging on the door saying, what's going on here? It's a big day. I got to hide under a table and see what the anti-Vike is doing in free agency. All right, 3-2. Well, you mentioned something to me last night. I watched up to the Wolves game to get ready for it because they asked me to do it like a week and change ago, so I didn't get a chance to practice with game calls, kind of like I did with those 2 Wild games that I called 3 years ago. And so I watched the last 3 San Antonio Spurs games. Kevin Lynch and I got together at my house on Friday night and watched the second half of the Wolves game against Miami. Kind of co-called it a little bit just to see what it's like, like when the analyst slides in and things like that. I listened to so much NBA play-by-play last week, nationwide. I don't, outside of our guy who joined Thursday, I believe, Eric Hasseltine with the Grizzlies.
Yeah. They
have a 2/3 person booth. Like they use, it's kind of like what we do with the Vikings Radio Network. We have Bursich in the booth, but Ben Lieber, he plays in a role that's more than plus size punter, limped off the field. Let's go down to Ben for an update. Brian Wright, questionable to return, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's more than that. He's a sideline analyst. Grizzlies do it that way. There are hardly any 2-people booths or 2-people calls in the NBA. So a lot of these Voxes are like Alan Horton, who's really, really good at what he does. They're doing it on their own. And when I was asked to do this, I'm like, cool. I mean, yeah, that'd be an honor, but I ain't trying to do it on my own.
I always love that.
So if I could do it with Kevin Lynch, yeah, I'll do it. But you mentioned something last week, one of your favorite players in the NBA, De'Aaron Fox. His points total, I didn't bring in the game calling depth chart. I'm going to bring that thing into you tomorrow or send you a picture of it. Honestly, I had no idea how to put one together. It's my game calling depth chart for last night was akin to your daughters, Ava and Stella, having a coloring project.
I always love that one.
When they were like 6 or 7 years of age and just like putting the puzzle together. It's
very Gorg-like. Did you use that? Yeah, you got color coordinated markers and various things.
Yeah, well said.
Nobody does it better than Gorgie.
No. With his calligraphy pens.
I will ask you this. I was listening to the open of it, got a chuckle out of it, had some fun with it. But I noticed, I'm curious, because when you're in, and I know you well enough, you're in, and it's from the prep to the go, and we're ready to party.
Right.
How'd you handle the pace? Because early on, I could feel it, and it was terrific. But I'm thinking to myself, if he did this for 48 straight minutes, he's going to need a week off because it was a combination it was like you were setting up the Minnesota Moving Company on the opening drive with a couple of stat bits combined with the race call as we're opening up, and Jaden McDaniels is unstoppable to start the game. There was a frenetic pace to it that felt like there's excitement. there's gotta go. I'm doing this thing. And I'm like, if he doesn't take a breath soon, he might have to lay down.
Can't say that would be the pacing or the crescendo building or stamping things 82 times during the course of the regular season. Old people get tired. Speaking of being tired, it's first and foremost, when I caught wind that Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell was coming to the game, I mean, we made a Sunday play. I mean, all you can do is ask and be told no. So for Kevin to join the broadcast early in the second quarter and spend about 8 minutes of the quarter with us, hey, Covenant clap. Covenant claps for that, man.
That was super cool.
I mean, seriously, that's the National Football League Coach of the Year. Just super cool, leaving his suite, coming over and chatting with Kevin Finch about the job that's being done by head coach Chris Lynch on the sideline for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And O'Connell, I mean, like I said to him on the broadcast last night, we want to make this an opportunity for you, in essence, to have the tail wagging the dog. You can rip the refs. You can second guess coaching moves. You can second guess challenges. I mean, you could just jump all over this thing.
You can exercise a season full of NFL referee demons by projecting it on the refereeing staff at Target Center. I love it.
Yeah, he could have been like, so who's the lead ref here? It's Scott Foster. Oh, he's going Trey Blake on the game.
I always love that one.
I mean, he could have done things like that, but here's the point. Kevin was a little tired. You know, and I know Kevin well enough to just kind of know, like, you know, when he's super up and when he's tired, he was really chill. But see, Kevin O'Connell being tired this time of the year, that's a good thing for the Minnesota Vikings. Because that means there's a lot of tape grinding with, is it 11? It's 11 a.m. cornfields for
11 a.m. at Pops.
Yeah, the oxymoron Pops at 11. That's the legal tampering portion of the equation in free agency.
But the funny part about it is we'll actually, because they're going to wait until it could be a quarter after 11. It could be 20 after 11. They have to wait. And in this performative, it's truly pretending that they haven't worked all of these deals out. We won't hear the fax machine dialing as if we're calling Bob Greasy. We won't see the deals really start to pop immediately because they have to pretend like they actually waited until the legal tampering period begins. Mm-hmm. It's kind of farcical, but 11 a.m., man, we're going to have a ton of stuff to sink our teeth into. It's sweet, dude.
Given, you know, to each their own with their proclivities. To each their own with their hobbies and with their distraction factors in their lives. Don't do it. Just don't do it. No, don't do it. Stop. It's not working. I would prefer the X machine go down 15 minutes before the announcement of the next president of the United States of America than have it go down today. What is happening right now? I mean, there could be players moving all over the place under the cover of darkness set to be announced at 11 a.m. cornfields. And we're reliant, at least I am here in the 651 Carpets Plus studios, on the ESPN ticker. Josh Allen gets $250 million guaranteed. Devontae Adams signing a 2-year deal with we know all that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it popped up. Hey. Oh, wait a second here.
We might be back.
I think we might be back. Yeah. Let me offer up this less than controversial statement. You doubted Elon.
I always love that one.
Go ahead and go with that one the rest of the show. All right, so let's see what we got here. Let's see, make sure this X machine is working on.
It appears to be working.
It's back. Yes.
I'm refreshing.
It's back. It's never been gone. Don't call it a comeback. Don't call it an X back. It's never been gone. All right, cool.
Oh, here we go. Rap sheet 9 seconds ago. Ian Rappaport, is this thing on? Fun day for an outage.
Oh, imagine.
Anyway, Evan Ingram, formerly the Jaguars, visiting the Broncos. Yeah. Source says we are back.
But you're something you said last week. I watched for closely in San Antonio's game at Sacramento on Friday night. And the Kings, the Kings are low-key on the heels of the Minnesota Timberwolves with this play-in thing.
Well, did you hear DeMontis, though? DeMontis is so down on what's going on there.
Is he out for the year?
Well, he's asking what their future plans are because I don't think he wants to stay there anymore. He's pissed about De'Aaron Fox being traded away.
Right.
Like, things are super negative.
I don't know if you saw this on Twitter this weekend. I saw it, I think it was Saturday. All right, so just to let me land the plane on giving you praise. Okay, I've tried to do it 4 times.
Oh.
We keep getting diverted.
Sorry.
Do you mind me giving you a little praise?
It's weird, but it's okay.
You mentioned something about De'Aaron Fox, and he's one of your favorite players.
Yes, I like him.
And you being a big Kentucky Wildcats fan, you have a game-worn Bam Adebayo, game-worn Tyler Hero. You like to wear those jerseys without T-shirts underneath them during spring and summer if the sun comes up right.
And I do not trim my underarm hair as part of that. Correct.
Yeah, why would you? Either does Andre Drummond. He makes like $20 million a year. So
if he could do it, I could do it.
But you mentioned something about De'Aaron Fox's game and and once I got all the minutia together for last night, he's down 4.8 points per game. He's down 5 points per game, and he had pop last night, but it was one of those Sunday games where the road team that's not going anywhere was just kind of laissez-faire. And when they had reason to hoist the white flag, they hoisted the white flag.
That had to be with 10 minutes or so left to go in the game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And De'Aaron was one of them. Now, De'Aaron Fox, when he was with the Sacramento Kings, November of last year, so this season, De'Aaron Fox scored 60 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
He did indeed.
That's the highest points total by any player in the league this year. And the most points the Timberwolves have given up to a player in the history of the franchise.
Yeah.
That's your guy, De'Aaron Fox. Do you know who is second for most points scored against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the history of the franchise? And I can give you a hint. Like De'Aaron Fox, he also attended the University of Kentucky.
Ooh.
And like De'Aaron Fox, he recently was traded.
It's not Carl, is it?
Nope. No, it's Julius Randle. 57 points against the Wolves in 2023. The French kid, Tony Parker, third, right behind him.
Wow.
So, De'Aaron Fox, man, he had averaged 34 points a game against Finchie this year, but they kind of relatively held him in check.
Well, you watched it. I mean, you got Castle. They still try to work Chris Paul into the mix. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Chris. I mean, I heard you joking about his vertical last night.
Yeah.
On the call.
It was tiny.
He's at the very, very, very end of
turns 40 in May.
Fairly accomplished career. So. But he ain't ageless like LeBron, apparently.
The Hal low-key ain't tripping on the team from the Mile Get High City. That's the next opponent, Denver, at Denver on Wednesday. The Timberwolves have won 9 of their last 13 regular season games against Joker Man and his Denver Nuggets, and 13 of the last 20. That would include the playoffs. But in closing here for this portion of the equation, Joker, though, Nikola Jokic, through 4 games in March, 24 points, 12 assists, and 17 rebounds per game. Holy cow, through the first 4 in March. And Joker was just amazing Friday night against Phoenix. How about this? He became the first player in the history of the NBA to get at least 30 points, 20 assists, and 20 rebounds.
Yeah, first 30-20-20 game.
It's the first, right?
It is, yeah.
Against Phoenix, I mean, what a bunch of L's there with Phoenix. Holy cow. He had 31 points, 22 assists, and 21 rebounds. So that's next. We get them out there on Wednesday. Then 5 in a row at home against Orlando, Utah, Indiana, and a couple against the New Orleans Pelicans. And speaking of homestands, I hope I have this right. I'm going to relook at it before McTockett joins about 30 minutes from now. I think, yesterday the Wild lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They lose 3-1, I believe. I think the Wild started like 10 of 11 at home They have like 10 of 11 games at home.
Yeah, they do.
As they approach the end of the season. I mean, that's beyond a scheduling quirk.
Well, I'm excited to hear from Micheletti at 10 a.m. because I want to know first what post-trade deadline vibes are with the team after you hear about adding Brazeau, but then you don't, they would have come down to straight hockey trades. I think money in, money out. And what that perception is, because it is truly, you're at home most of March, win your home games, and you are comfortably in the postseason.
Yes.
You get days, kind of sleepy games like yesterday. I think Crosby scored a couple. It wasn't good yesterday. It wasn't good enough. So they got to capitalize on the home friendly ice.
All of that, by the way, including Tockett's inclusion at 10, and elite sports and football mind, former Viking safety Corey Chavis joins 9 to noon today at about 11:03. That's when the oxymoron unfurls, legal tampering with NFL free agency, and it's good to have Coach Ave and his brilliant mind on it about 11:03. As part of the Timber Tech What's on Deck set list, courtesy of TimberTech.com. And by the way, that little 30 piece we just unfurled for you, that was a Steve's Appliance marathon segment. New friends of 9 to noon and KFAN and yours truly, very, very, very sweet people who own a standalone appliance store that services the entire Twin Cities and guarantees best prices on stuff. So if you need appliances, I cannot recommend the kindness of these people anymore. Steve's Appliance, they're handling the marathon segments 9 to noon, and we welcome you to the Love Covenant Steve's Appliances and stevesappliances.com. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Around the corner, Vikes Bites, red light, green light, flashlight on KFAN.
Vikes Bites.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Vikes Bites is always presented by 1,000 Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can shop on the website. You can learn about regenerative agriculture. You can learn about this nutrient-dense beef that is just delicious and good for you. It's a Clearwater, Minnesota company. You can get them online. As I mentioned, box of meat shows up at your doorstep. You can go to Coburn's, Co-ops, and Kowalski's locations. They're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics as well. Vikes Bite style, there's so many things that are happening in the NFL. Not only do I have some notes prepared, but thankfully X is back up. So we're on it. We're back. But with the Minnesota Vikings, this broke yesterday, long before the website had its outages. We're going to start with we're not going to call him the plus side. We're just going to call him the punter. As a matter of fact, Ryan Wright, who is set to be a restricted free agent, he gets reset on a 1-year, $1.75 million deal. That can be up to $2 million total with incentives. Mm-hmm. But questions about who the punter is going to be, it sounds like those were answered. Where's your head at, PA, real quick on the idea? Okay, terrific rookie season. We got to see him unfurl a couple of fake punt passes, one completed in London, another one, I believe, against the Colts that didn't go as well.
Yeah, we haven't done those in 2 years.
No, we have not.
Like 2 seasons, right?
Well, maybe we're sitting on one. Who knows?
Or they're mad at him.
Or they're PO'd at the punter. But there were some issues in terms of maybe some touchbacks that we did not see in his first season with the Vikings.
Right.
It felt like this was a season of ascension. Mm-hmm. If that's fair, I think Ryan Wright started a little rough. Yeah. I think he ended the season quite well. Yeah. And Ryan Wright appears to be our punter in 2025.
Well, so Ryan, as the fan has learned, as people grow older and they mature and they age, body types can redefine themselves. So if I believe, there were some requirements of young Ryan Wright when it came to like getting the who, what, where, when, and why squared away with the totality of everything that goes into Ryan Wright. Now, what you said was right from his rookie season. The undrafted rookie from Tulane in 2022 had 0 touchbacks the entire season. And then he boomed one against the football Giants and dimes, and it was a touchback. So just things got a little wonky there.
Yeah.
But when they had the cat from Portland State, he's fast, used to be a wide receiver. Seth Vernon.
Seth Vernon,
Yes,
my bad.
Seth Vernon, when he joined the Covenant, he was here a little longer than I thought he would be here. I never thought he was going to win the job, but man, Vernon ran like the wind. So I'm like, okay, so he can run, in Coleman-esque fashion. So maybe you can do some things with him, but it just seemed to be an application of some pressure put on Ryan Wright. And Ryan responded. The battery for the special teams battery, the kicking battery for this squad, it's one of the better in the National Football League. Jacksonville has a really, really good punter and kicker and long snapper. But Serpo, Andrew DePaula, I think he's 3 consecutive years he's been named All-Pro. So you got an All-Pro snapper. The Alabama kid, despite the injury and some misses near the end, I think we'll all roll into the battle with him and feel pretty good about things. And same thing with Ryan Wright. So that facet of the Covenant seems to be quite secure. I like Ryan a lot. Congratulations to him and his family.
Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. I am excited for the final hour because this is where we can start really digging into, are there a couple of names out there that we want back, right? We want these guys to return. These are priorities if it's going to happen.
O'Connell was just elated at the Jones bit last night. I don't know if I brought it up on the radio. I think I did. But right before he was leaving, I just know how much he likes Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Because, their leader, we've said this before, leadership doesn't mean you have to be Tom Brady or Peyton Manning caught on NFL films going up and down the offensive line F-bombing people.
Right.
It's Aaron galvanized things with this team. It's whether it was from media members in Green Bay or fans who were super sad to see him leave. We heard a lot of accolade-related things associated with Aaron Jones, and I've heard a lot of those before, and they generally don't come to fruition. They did with Aaron. And I guess I had forgotten, after getting home from the Wolves game and doing a Covenant catch-up with the Jones deal, I had forgotten how many total yards he had last year. So I think we're 1,400 on the rushing and, or something like that. Or it was like 1,500 total yards, maybe 400 on the receiving, 1,100 on the rushing. And we've mentioned this before, the problem with Aaron nearing the end of the year is he would practice during the course of the week, maybe in questionable fashion, but he'd be a significant part of Kevin O'Connell's offense, but then he would get nicked up during games.
Yep.
So the best laid plans, I would imagine, deviate when he leaves and somebody else comes in. But that did not deter them from giving him that 2-year deal. And personally speaking, I'm really happy Aaron's back.
I'm happy he's back too. At first, when I saw just 2 and 20, right? Like that's kind of the overlying long view of the contract. It's like 2 and 20. I think we gave him like 7 last year.
Yep.
And then the playing of all the games and all the reps, I thought in some ways just blanket looking at he was available for every game. I think that is a bit misleading because of what you just mentioned and the fact that he was nicked up in certain spots in games. But all the same, he's going to have about $4.8 or $4.9 million cap hit this year. Mm-hmm. It does break down into per game roster bonuses and various things. Not to go into the whole thing, but it's an $8 million signing bonus. It's a $1.5 million base this year. It'll be a $9 million base next year. But in the end, when healthy, an absolute weapon for this Vikings offense. I do think that this has to pair up with, though, a reliable secondary option that is part of the conversation.
That's part of the draft conversation.
Correct, exactly.
I agree. I'm
for
10
today,
of 10 with you on that.
Super pumped that Aaron Jones is back. Mm-hmm. Now we look ahead to late April to maybe finish the picture of what the running back room will be.
The only thing I can add to that is I've said it before, if you truly believe, and I do believe, we heard it on the radio with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and or his right-hand man, the senior vice president of player personnel, Ryan Grigson, is they validated and or daggered the fact that, yes, there are a bevy of defensive tackles, a bevy of running backs in this draft who will matter in the National Football League all the way through Saturday. Well, if that is the belief, granted they come at it from 4 picks, so that makes it obviously more difficult. But if that's the case, then you have to end up with one.
Yeah.
And just, you know what? If something happens and your super special board has, I don't know, the North Carolina guy, Caleb Williams,
Right.
Has somebody ranked in a spot where you're at 24 and all of a sudden you're around 22, 23 and that guy's available and you got him at like 8 or 9, despite the Aaron Jones 2-year piece, yeah, I mean, if it really is as good as everybody says it is, including insiders, then like moving up and getting one of them, do I think it's going to happen? No. But I mean, that's like where the mindset should go when you have certain position groups that are super, super deep. But the Jones signing takes a little pressure off of that for sure.
Vikes Bites, thank you, Thousand Hills. Dustin Baker, Vikings territory. I think we had him on the show.
Yeah, he's cool.
And you've joined his show, and nice guy, but I love the way that he laid this out. This will kind of maybe transition us into next segment where we start talking about a flurry of things that have already happened, including some rumors regarding Sam Darnold.
Yes, sir.
But he laid out via X yesterday that here's what happened last year on free agency day number 1. And I'm glad that he went back and looked at this and put it all down, because it is part of the idea that it's going to be fast and furious early and often.
And X was down at 8:55 and you were tripping.
Thanks, Elon. But he put this.
Yeah, nice job, Elon. Seriously, man.
Free agency day 1.
Why don't you start caring about people?
Cousins,
like Nordo and I with Twitter.
Exactly. Cousins to Atlanta, Jordan Hicks to Cleveland, Blake Cashman signs, Blake Brandell resigns, Andrew Van Ginkel signs, Jonathan Grenard signs.
Okay, hold on. That all was right out of the gate?
Right out of the gates.
Oh, damn. So 11 a.m. big this morning with Coach Ave.
Saucy and I we were filling in for Common on that Monday. I think you were doing vocal maintenance.
No, I was in Los Angeles with my son.
Right. Wolves game.
Going to the Wolves, Lakers, Wolves, Clippers.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on vacation and I got strong-armed, excuse me. It was such a fun day that I just, that's when at this Beverly Hills hotel, the Wolves opened up their meeting room for me because it had, what's that line called that you got to have?
The Ethernet. Yeah,
the Ethernet, the vector from Hector. And
remember the guy that kept basically it could have been like 9:30 and he's already trying to kick you out of the room. Like, you're gonna be here all day, guy?
Strength and conditioning guy came in there trying to rehabilitate 3 guys dead set to go to the playoffs, and I'm talking about Kirk O'Chains. Yeah, that was this time last year. Wow, that was memorable.
But all of that happened as soon as the bell rang, effectively, over the first few hours, and then the very next day, you heard about Darnold, you heard about Aaron Jones. So kind of that kind of sets you up, and this team's got more cap space than they've had in a decade and a half, it feels like. Mm-hmm. Early and often, fast and furious for the purple. And that starts at 11.
Yeah, and as we pause, we'll come back and go over some of the Devontaes over there and DK Metcalf over there and George Pickens. You reap what you sow. A lot of people in this local market, by the way, are quickly learning that you reap what you sow. All right, but 3-2. As it comes to like professional sports, George Pickens at the end of the Steelers playoff game, I think to the Chiefs, not only basically, I think it was the Chiefs, was hugging all the players, and he was super sad about his lot in life. He got after the Steelers a little bit in the locker room after the game, and I think he's set to become a free agent here pretty soon, maybe next year. So George Pickens, quite the talented receiver.
It was to the Ravens, by the way.
Ravens, thank you. Mercurial as he is, the Pickens. Well, you reap what you sow, man. Because people remember. And he's begging for new money and a big ballyhoo deal. So they reward George Pickens by breaking the bank for 5 years with DK Metcalf. You, ladies and gentlemen, you reap what you sow. We'll get into some of that around the corner. I also have some quasi predictions for the Minnesota Vikings today. In fact, maybe an hour and 12 minutes from now, they come to fruition. We will share those and much more when 9 to noon continues on your free agency tracking leader. That includes 6:30 to 8 tonight with Nordo and Saucy. This is FM 100.3 KFAN. J.C. Horn, Carolina Panthers. What does supposedly is going to happen at 11 a.m.?
Yeah, some stuff's starting to filter in. Those that were either extended, they can be traded. Those that have been released can sign.
Yep.
But how about this? I found this from Shefty. A lot of Shefty in the mix today. It's game day for him. J.C. Horn, Carolina Panthers corner. J.C. Horn, maybe South Carolina out of college. But he's agreed to a 4-year, $100 million extension. $108 million max with incentives, $70 million guaranteed. And at $25 million per year, J.C. Horn is now the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. And 25 per Jalen Ramsey, 24.1. Patrick Surtain II, 24. Jair Alexander, 21. You're starting to kind of get the hint. A.J. Terrell and Denzel Ward also north of $20 million.
Yep.
That makes, I'm curious how that impacts the Byron Murphy Jr., DJ Reed conversations as the next, hour and 4 minutes and change go to the legal tampering period, PA.
For the corner, Horn, that's a lot of JC notes.
I'm curious if has he played half the games in his career? The first thing I think of when I think of J.C. Horn, injured. That's all I think about when I think about J.C. Horn. So
yeah, for me,
good for him though.
For me, it would be constantly mixing him up with something called C.J. Henderson.
I always love that one.
There's no change to the bet for yours truly. Byron Murphy Jr. has to be re-signed by the Minnesota Vikings. It's a 9 of 10 for me. So I like Carlton Davis from the Detroit Lions, as do several others. And there are corners out there who can be sticky and can help, but they haven't meshed with the hybrid 3-4 with floaters, and that thing takes a little bit to learn. Well, Byron Murphy Jr. knows where all dem bones are buried. Yeah. So if and or when that the oxymoron pops. An hour and 3 minutes from now, legal tampering, and you can sign, in essence, sign players from other teams, but they don't go official until the league year begins, which I believe is Wednesday. Well, that's the first one I'd like to hear is Byron Murphy Jr. is back in the covenant. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened today, because Byron Murphy Jr. has a lot of fans over there at the old TCO PC. From an offensive line standpoint, we've put a fair amount of time into it 9 to noon, recognizing that via the draft and or free agency, there could be a couple of new offensive linemen starting for the Minnesota Moving Company next year. And that all plays into things that we talk about and we think about with young JJ, as in McCarthy. Jones is re-signed. And despite, all the sacks and the Van Ginkels and Grenard having the best season of his career, things like that, it's the head coach is an offensive head coach. The head coach likes to strike and is very aggressive. So the identity, as long as you compensate Justin Jefferson, well, that's going to be the identity of your team. So the offense is still the identity of Minnesota Vikings football. And if you're going to give Aaron 2 and whatever, if you maybe draft one, if you're looking to reconfigure things offensively, yes, 9 to noon absolutely recognizes there needs to be an upgrade with the Minnesota Moving Company, the offensive line. And with some of these names that we've bandied about, like we've talked about Cam Robinson and Mekhi Becton, the former highly drafted tackle with the New York Giants who plays, or the Jets, one of the two. He played guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, right guard. He's a big, powerful, road grading kind of vertical passing game protecting offensive lineman. And we also started last week to chat about Will Fries. And my man got hurt last year. I think he only played 4 games. But in snooping around about him a little bit at the combine and some of late, that's an offensive lineman who fits what the Minnesota Vikings want to do. He just seems to be the kind of guy that fits with the Minnesota Moving Company, and with the way O'Connell schemes things up, specifically given it's not as much a throw-first team as it was in 2022, but they still want to throw for the dough. And I think you'd be getting Fries at a very good time of his career, assuming off whatever the injury was last year, that he vets out and works out okay, so that you can at least get him ready. I think he was hurt last year.
He absolutely was. Let me just verify. I thought it was a tibia or something like that.
Oh yeah. And he played 4 games or something.
Yeah, he was lost early. We didn't see him at US Bank Stadium for the Flacco game.
Yeah, I think he left the chat. Did he leave the chat?
He may have actually left the chat.
Yeah, he got booted out of it is what happened.
Well, it was kind of, we talked about this last week, and it kind of hit me, and it was in the same vein. Jordan Reed, of course, ESPN. We know Jordan well, and we love him. But he kind of laid this out. Have always felt the best GMs execute free agency by identifying and paying players for what they could be in the future. So, this cash that's going, it was a tibia week 5 for Freeze.
Oh, good.
Freeze/Fries. If he comes here, you know what? I'm excited to figure that out.
Yeah, I probably should figure out if it's Freeze or Fries too.
Well, if he signs the contract, we'll do it. If he doesn't sign the contract, we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But he noted Freeze/Fries as one of the guys, but that fit into that category, and that's just Jordan Reed's opinion.
Right.
Freeze, Paulson Adebo, Deo Dingbo. I think he's a former Colt as well.
Those are all players that Jordan Reed touted as to thinking they would be good here.
Yeah, well, he noted these players specifically as because we're going to overpay for what people have already done. In a lot of cases, that's the nature of free agency in some ways. But if you can specifically identify that this person, okay, and we talked about it, like Jonathan Renard. He had the 12.5 or 13 sacks. I forget what the specific number was in 2024.
Yep.
Okay, that's sweet. Well, we paid Jonathan Grenard to do that, and he in some ways had a terrific year. I think that in some ways outperformed exactly what we may have been anticipating year one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Andrew Van Ginkel outperformed what we anticipated from him year one.
Yeah, and so did Cashy.
And so did Blake Cashman. So, identifying those guys that, we're going to pay a premium because they're in free agency, but we also believe that growth curve is not finished.
Yeah, that's Freeze.
If we can identify those guys and Freeze/Fries is one of those guys, let's pounce on him today. And it'd be exciting to watch him continue to develop as a member of the Minnesota Moving Company.
If the Vikings come out of the gate and open illegal tampering with Byron Murphy Jr. back in the squad, and then an offensive line back on the squad, and then an offensive lineman, and I think Freeze adds up many different ways. So, but I don't know if he's one of those guys that you got to snatch up early. So we'll see how that works out. Let's segue into the second hour and roll to the world of hockey. The state high school hockey tournament. By the way, Covenant claps for Zach Halverson. Man, he does really, really good work calling those hockey games.
He was awesome.
His goal calls are fantastic.
And big thanks to all of our fantastic listeners. The state gets in for this tournament. I mean, it is a massive showcase every year. But whether it was streaming numbers, it was listener support and all of that, not only did Zach absolutely kick rear end, but the listeners were there too. And then I'm glad that all came together this weekend. And Spuds!
Yep. And we always thank you for that. Your dedication to AM 1130 KFAN or FM 100.3 KFAN for close to 30 years now. It's a staple. And we thank you very much for your loyalty. But Spuds get 2A, East Grand Forks gets single A, Edina gets booed, Motzko's team lost to a 7, and the Wild all of a sudden can't score. We're going to hit those topics with Mick Tockett around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN.